All right, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming out here earlier today. Now, in my earlier prepared remarks, before the heat advisory changed our plans on where these announcements would be made, I was going to say, welcome to the great outdoors. But it's been getting a little hot for us lately. Unfortunately, the humidity's down a little bit this week, but it's been quite the early time of the summer already for the heat. So in all seriousness, the heat advisory is going into effect later here today and will be in place for the balance of the week as well. So please be sure to check on folks that you're concerned about, watch your pets when they're outside, et cetera. Know the cooling places when they're in town. If you have any questions at all, you can just call 311 and the city will show you where our support is for that. But the great thing is we're blessed here to be inside where it's air conditioned here today inside of the Mayor's Gallery. Now each of these land and water conservation fund announcements that we're here to talk about today have to do with making our great outdoor spots even greater. When you go to wonderful cities, they've got great outdoor amenities. It's good and for so many different reasons. And they have to do with paying forward the thoughtful conservation and preservation efforts that made these parks and Jefferson Memorial Forest possible for these grants in the first place. We're happy that Governor Andy Beshear is in the house today. Welcome, Governor. Good to have you here. Let's hear for the governor, please. The governor's not any stranger to Louisville at all. He's here all the time, and we really appreciate the support that he gives our city day in and day out. He's been at the center, obviously, of some recent great economic news for the state, which positions Kentucky on the leading edge of renewable energy sources and the automobiles that use them. That's also great environmental news. But when we think about how people will look back 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now at the announcement of these EV battery plants just south of here, they will look at those as watershed moments for Kentucky, not just for job growth, but how our state has been repositioned also in terms of being at the forefront of both energy and environmentalism. And so those are tremendous things for so many different reasons for our people and for our businesses and our environment here. So thank you for your leadership in those efforts. We also welcome Mayor John Evans of Prospect and Mayor Byron Chapman of Middletown for their part in this morning's announcements as well. Always good partners to the city. We appreciate you guys. There's a noticeable theme that runs through all three grants that are announced today, a civic commitment to conservation and equity. That commitment is shared by the governor and my fellow mayors who strive to make the outdoors more amenable and accessible to everyone, and that's more than a good thing, that's a great thing. I would hope everybody could agree on that. The Jefferson Memorial Forest is one of the recipients today, particularly for an area that bears the names of two great former Louisvillians. Tom Wallace, a crusading newspaper editorialist at the late Louisville Times, who had his eye on conservation and preservation at least a century ago, whose fearless leadership and advocacy drove the efforts to preserve Cumberland Falls and create our urban forest. Think about that, an urban forest, the largest one in the country in the southwest Knobs region of Louisville. And former Dave Armstrong, a great friend of the forest, in deed, word, and thought, gathering and galvanizing the best effort of other friends, and without whom there would be no welcome center and no programming that distinguished the forest in its presence now. I want to recognize Tom Armstrong in the back, Dave's brother, and a great citizen here in the Commonwealth. I have Dave to blame for being mayor. When I first thought about running for political office, Dave was a friend. I went and told him, I'm thinking about doing some public service and all that, and I was just a business guy, and I thought he would quickly disabuse me of the notion, but I said, what do you think? He said, I think it would be great. So Dave Armstrong really was the first person that encouraged me to run for public office, and he's left an indelible mark on our city in so many different ways, from the forest to the skate park to downtown development. He was always ahead of his time and just led a great impact both on the city and me as a wonderful friend. So Tom, thank you for all the wonderful Armstrongs in our community. The project getting today's grants brings the two doers and dreamers, Mr. Wallace and former Mayor Armstrong, together in the David L. Armstrong Project at Tom Wallace Lake. I think that's great serendipity. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that while today's grant for the forest is fantastic news, and we are very grateful for that, we're in the first phase of improvements for the forest, and we still need to raise money for even more improvements to keep the vision and the reality going for tomorrow's Louisville drawing on the inspiration of Wallace and Armstrong, and I'm certain we will get there. So now for the great news, please welcome our special guest, our great governor, Andy Beshear. Governor?
Well, good morning, and thank you to Mayor Fisher for that kind introduction. I'm excited to be here today for some grants that are personal to me. Brittany, Will, Lila, and I called Louisville our home for over 15 years. My daughter still rides in Prospect, and my son played baseball in Middletown this last weekend. And so we are frequent visitors and users of these park systems, seeing how critical it is, how it improves our quality of life, and I've been blessed to see it through not just my own eyes, but my children's eyes. And so, mayors, thank you for everything you do, not just for your citizens, but for those of us that come in and get to use those amenities. I want to thank Mayor Fisher of Louisville, Mayor Evans of Prospect, and Mayor Chapman of Middletown for joining us today. I also want to recognize representatives from Louisville Metro Government. A long time ago, my wife was an employee of Louisville Metro Government, working with parks and special events, as well as from Middletown and Prospect. Additionally, I want to thank Jessica Kane, Parks Administrator for Jefferson Memorial Forest, for joining us. Today, we're celebrating over $300,000 from the Land and Water Conservation Fund being invested in 3 parks across Jefferson County. We hope to do this announcement outside, but as the mayor said, it's hot. And it's going to get hotter. They're talking about high 90s by this afternoon and throughout the week, so everybody be careful. You know, we got through last week with all our folks still with us. We've made it through a pandemic and ice storms and tornadoes and who knows what else. We got to make sure we don't lose people when the temperatures rise. So please look out for your neighbor. Make sure they're doing okay, especially if they are susceptible to the heat. I don't know about you, but in this jacket, I think we probably made the right choice of being in here, but we know how important the outdoors are, especially in a world emerging from the COVID pandemic when we all want to be outside our homes and out in nature as much as possible with friends and family. So today, we're celebrating projects that will make these parks even more accessible and enjoyable, and what you'll hear as a theme is that our parks ought to be enjoyed by everyone. They ought to all be ADA compliant. They ought to be accessible and open to every single Louisvillian, every single Kentuckian, every single American, every single citizen of this world that is coming through. So let's get to it. Our first park up is Jefferson Memorial Forest, specifically the Tom Wallace Recreation Area. And I'm going to have to talk about Dave Armstrong for just a second too. A wonderful friend to me. Participated in his funeral and was proud to be there to recognize him. Wouldn't have become Attorney General or be here today without his support and his encouragement. A wonderful human being, not just in public service, but who he was, and blessed to get to know him as an individual. He was also a great commissioner of the Public Service Commission, and I could use a couple of those. So we appreciate his service. We have another great commissioner that's here that should still be commissioner. We appreciate your service. So today we're presenting $200,000 for the Tom Wallace Recreational Area Improvements. The Tom Wallace Lake is a place where residents love to come to hike, fish, and enjoy the outdoors. Jefferson Memorial Forest is within a 30-minute drive of most Louisvillians, making it a quick getaway for our families. And this money will help install a 4,000-foot paved walking path that will be ADA compliant, meaning everybody can truly enjoy it. We're making sure that nobody will be left out. Folks with disabilities will be able to experience the woodlands and the surrounding lakes, which is important that we make all of our Kentucky experiences more inclusive. In addition to making the park more accessible, this funding will also support creating a 130-foot boardwalk across the lake, expanding 2 parking areas, installing an electric vehicle charging station, because if we're going to make the batteries that power the cars of tomorrow, we got to be able to charge those batteries. Expanding a picnic area and making it ADA accessible, creating a kayak and a canoe launch, repositioning a fishing pier to a more favorable location, and creating 7 fishing areas along the shoreline. So Administrator Kane, Mayor Fisher, anybody else that's a part of this, please join us to accept these funds.
Thank you, Governor Beshear. Congratulations to Mayor Evans and Mayor Chapman and Prospect and Middleton. In Greater Louisville, we are blessed with some wonderful parks within the urban core and in our suburban cities. Thank you, Mayor Fisher, for being a consistent supporter of Jefferson Memorial Forest. The Louisville is Engaging Children Outdoors ECHO programming, the West Louisville Outdoor Recreation Initiative, and all of our programming, outdoor spaces, and employees aligned with our Natural Areas Division. This award, as Mayor Fisher mentioned, is going to enhance the work that we're doing and will greatly honor the legacy of Tom Wallace and David Armstrong. I'd like to thank Councilman Mark Fox and Councilwoman Cindy Fowler for their consistent and continuous support throughout this project. Last but not least, I'd like to recognize Bennett Knox, who was the longtime Parks Administrator for Natural Areas and now serves as the Executive Director for Wilderness Louisville, the 501c3 supporting our Natural Areas Division. Without Bennett's vision and leadership, this project would not be possible. Thank you to Bennett, JMF staff, and Assistant Director Jason Canuel for all of their support and ensuring that nature is accessible to all. Thank you.
All right, award number 2 is for Little Hunting Creek Park in the city of Prospect, a park that right now largely functions as a green space where kids play soccer, where Prospect hosts their fall festivals. But with these funds, this green space will now become a fully accessible gathering space. The project will allow for a playground, a pavilion, walking trails, and a picnic and bench area. Something to note is that the playground will be built by members of the community. Now, that's something really special. Seeing this community leading with their values so that everybody can benefit and the values that everybody should be able to participate. So today we're happy to support these efforts by awarding $110,000. Mayor, if you'd please join us in accepting this check.
First of all, Prospect thanks you very much. The governor stole my thunder by telling you all about Little Hunting Creek Park. All I can add is that this will become basically the center point in the city of Prospect, a town of 5,000 people, increasingly younger people, hence the playground that we're about to build. There's one other feature that I want to mention, and someone just mentioned a boardwalk. And we are also planning from the same place in the center. It's right next to City Hall, this green space. And from there across our nature preserve known as Putney Pond, we're looking at building a boardwalk that will go across there. And the reason I call this the center point of the city is that it will connect Hunting Creek, Fox Harbor, and the community known as the Landings, which will enable pedestrians to walk over to Little Hunting Creek Park from the Landings, from Fox Harbor, and enjoy everything that we're about to put there. One of my ambitions next year, once we've got the pavilion built, is to host events for our community. And I have in mind the Louisville Orchestra. For example, I just found out that the former assistant conductor of the Louisville Orchestra now lives in Prospect. I know his name. I've called him and talked to him on the phone. And so we're hoping to get the Louisville Orchestra or some portion of it to come out and perform for us in our pavilion. I also found out the Shakespeare in the Park does this. And we'll look forward to having perhaps some plays performed on our pavilion in Little Hunting Creek Park, and so on and so forth. There are Oldham County Community Band, the Swing Street Big Band, all sorts of entertainment that we can provide outdoors for our people. So thank you again for this wonderful support.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, we do appreciate you. I think my daughter spends more time in Prospect with Zena Beshear, which is the horse. Owning a horse is like having a mortgage on a depreciating asset. It's interesting.
Almost as bad as having a boat.
There you go. But up for our next award, do want to mention, while this isn't for Crosby Park, spent most of last weekend watching my son pitch there. What a wonderful facility. You all have done such a good job. So last up, we have an award for Weatherby Park in the city of Middletown. Weatherby Park is a wonderful area to go outside or to enjoy a summer concert. And today, we're awarding $49,000 to this park to add playground equipment and parking on the west side and to install benches. These are all additions that will make this park more fun and enjoyable for everyone living around or everybody visiting. So, Mayor Chapman, if you would please join me to accept this check.
Governor, I want to thank you for understanding the importance of the grant to the residents of the city of Middletown. As we grow our park to support the active lifestyles of Middletown residents, we need grants such as this to reach that goal. We could not do that without the support of the governor and the Department of Local Government. This is a great example, Governor, of how the state and suburban cities can work together. The governor of the lifestyle, the grant will support, enhances the quality of life, as we've talked about earlier, and of the youth in Middletown and the Commonwealth of Kentucky. As a majority of this grant will cover the new playground equipment, picnic shelter, as we talked about, and extended walking paths, you can understand how it will impact everyone for the better. And Governor, we look forward to hosting you in Middletown when we finish this to come and cut the ribbon and let us watch the children enjoy themselves with the park.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Today's announcements build on the funding that we've dedicated to help improve the Louisville area. In late 2021, I was joined by many of the leaders here, specifically Mayor Fisher and others, at Waterfront Park to celebrate the dedication of $10 million to support the expansion of the park between 10th and 14th Street. The total cost of that expansion is $50 million, making it the largest public amenity investment in West Louisville in decades. And when we combine that with Norton building the first hospital in the West End in 120 years, the investment that the Goodwill campus is making, our new government center now open about 6 months in the same set of blocks, it's exciting to see a future where prosperity can reach not just every part of Kentucky, but that we're dedicated to making sure it and these amenities reach every part of this city as well. Now, we've talked a lot about the exciting future. I just want to talk for a moment about the challenging present. Now, we're still dealing with a 1 in every 100-year pandemic, and that's not easy. We're dealing with still the repercussions of not one but 2 ice storms that we've had in the last 2 years. We're rebuilding after the most devastating tornado event we've seen. We have a city, the city of Marion, that is out of water after a problem with their reservoir. We have inflation that, while temporary, is real challenging for our families, from gas to food. And we even have a Russian invasion of Ukraine that has real and significant economic repercussions, but we are strong enough. We've proven we are strong enough to make it through every single one of them, because we know that you have to stop a dictator right away, and we have to stop this one right now to make sure he goes no further. But what we're doing here today is we're investing because while the present is challenging, the future is so bright and optimistic. If we can push through what we face today, what we can see tomorrow has more potential for our kids and grandkids than ever before. We have a chance to be the generations and the leadership that change everything for every generation to come in Kentucky, with more opportunity, more jobs, more cutting-edge industries than ever before. Now, in the past 8 months, we've become the electric vehicle battery production capital of the United States of America. That's everything from Ford's biggest investment in their history to now Envision and Bowling Green's biggest investment in their history. You just look in this year alone, over $3.9 billion, 6,700 jobs, following last year's $11.2 billion in investment. and 18,000 jobs at the second highest wage we've ever announced, all around the state. We're doing everything from building the cleanest, greenest recycled paper mill on planet Earth, so when all those Amazon boxes show up at your house like they do at mine, they don't cost us one tree from any area, with especially what we're talking about today, to all the incredible things happening here in Louisville. You know, you think about Louisville, and we're making rare earth metal magnets right here in this city. Now, I don't know what those are, but I know they're in everything from our cell phones to the MRI machines, and they are in such high demand. We're seeing R&D facilities here and across Kentucky, making sure we're not just the workers, but the thinkers of tomorrow. We've reported the lowest unemployment rate in the history of Kentucky for 2 months straight. And I think later this week, we're going to be able to show that we have the fewest people on unemployment in over 2 decades. Yes, we have challenges in front of us, but they are challenges we would have prayed to have in the second or third month of the pandemic. I'm so proud of how this city and this state is pushing through a challenging present to get to that bright future, and we will get there. And in the meantime, we will do everything we can to provide relief. You know, we started all the way back in January when I signed that executive order to freeze motor vehicle property taxes that were going up as it was harder to get a new car. The value of used cars were going up, to freezing our gas tax. You know, as a state, it's really hard to impact the price of gas, but it was going to go up because of state law, and we could not let that happen. It was pushing for a 1% decrease in the sales tax, which would have made everything less expensive. Now, the legislature chose not to go along with that, but we will continue to push for that relief. I've requested a temporary pullback of the RFG requirements here in the Louisville area, hopefully make gas 20 or 25 cents less expensive. While we've been told no for now. We're going to keep pushing in different ways, and we have gotten at least positive responses that the federal administration is looking at what they can do on gas prices, and specifically looking at what they can do here in Kentucky. And we in the city of Louisville have programs to help you. If you're struggling at the end of the month, please look at the programs that are out there. It's everything from rental or mortgage assistance, help with your utilities, help with childcare, help with paying for internet through a federal program. Those are all things that we can save you money on now that can help you pay for that food and help you pay for that gas. If you're willing to look at those programs, hopefully no Kentucky family will lose their home or be evicted from their apartment or have to choose at the end of the week or the month between medicine and food. We have made it largely through a 1 in every 100-year pandemic. We can make it through these challenging present, and that future is so bright, and it's going to be incredibly bright for this city, poised to make even additional gains. Already recognized as a world-class place to do business, I'm telling you, Louisville and Kentucky have a chance not just to leapfrog 10 other states' economies, but to be a top 10 state economy. So I know the Commonwealth and these cities are going to be focused on helping families in their day-to-day, but we are not taking our eyes off the ball on creating those new jobs of the futures, one that pay better, one that we know will be around for 50 years. We're going to make the batteries that power the vehicles on the roads for the next 50 years. In the East, we're going to grow the food that's going to feed a growing world's population as water's driving up in the West. This is our time and Kentucky's time. This is Louisville's time. This is all of not only our time, but our time to change everything for our kids and our kids' kids. And I know that we're going to grasp that opportunity and create that big, bright, better world for those next generations. Thank y'all. God bless. I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
All right, thank you, Governor, and congratulations, mayors. Great job to our team at Jefferson Memorial Forest. It's just wonderful to see all this coming together. A lot of momentum here, as the governor mentioned, in all of our cities and in the Commonwealth as well. Challenges will always be out there, and we'll continue to make progress against those.